the washing your vag part, I think you could get away with, you
Washing
know.
your labia.
Right.
Your
But I think
vagina is a self-cleaning oven. You don't have to put nothing up there, but your
right.
labia, your vulva needs to be washed.
Well, yeah, I didn't know you were going to start using particular,
Well, I
you
mean,
know.
but I think that women would, if a woman does not agree with me that she needs to wash her junk, then I don't want to be around her.
Right. But but nobody looks good washing your ass.
Nobody. Nobody.
No.
It could be the most beautiful woman in the world. Once she reaches back there to wash her ass, you're turned off.
Yeah.
Which is a problem because what if you now are a couple, you and whoever, now you're self-conscious about washing your ass in front of them
Well, why? I'm just
because
saying it's
it's
not
not
sexy. You got
sexy.
to just do it. You know, I understand, you know, it's just part of the it's part
It's
of the
just part of
thing.
living. It's washing your ass. You got to do it.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like okay, you know, some guys like watching girls pee on the toilet and then they got to, you know, do
That's
that thing
true.
with the toilet
That's
paper.
true. Maybe there's some guy with an ass washing like fetish.
Fetish. You
Yeah.
know there is. If you
There
can
there is.
if
Absolutely.
if you can think it,
Yeah.
some dude is some person is turned
Some
on
guys
by it.
whacking it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the sad part, or
It's not
not
really
sad part.
sad. I mean, yeah.
I mean, who are they hurting?
Not going to kink shame anybody that wants to watch someone go pee
Yeah,
or, whatever.
I have, but I mean, it's a utilitarian thing to me. It's just like okay, I'm brushing my teeth. You need to go to the bathroom. Just do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be.
I like to pretend that I don't have those bodily functions
Oh yeah.
like at all. Like I yeah, no.
Well, it's that old question of whether women fart or not. You know, and
They
then
don't.
yeah, well, until they do, right? I mean, because later, I mean, sooner or later, as we get older and we we lose we we lose our control at times. You get the mom farts, and or you get the sneeze fart. You know what I mean?
Right.
Where you
And see
sneeze and fart
that's
at the same
different,
time.
but there's still a choice. Like I've been married 20 years in June and I still don't intentionally fart in front of my husband.
Well, but yeah, but
I don't even like to admit that I poop ever.
right.
So that's not something we discuss. We have one word for I have to go to the bathroom, and that could be either thing, but I'm never going to say which one it is. You know what I'm
So you
saying?
you just say I have to go to the toilet.
Basically, yeah, got to
Yeah.
go to the bathroom. I'm not going to specify.
Hmm.
So,
Well, yeah,
yeah.
that was one of the unkind things that happened to me when I was in the hospital, and so I'm very traumatized by that thing because I have a dicky bowel anyway, and then being in the hospital for that long and
Mhm.
just feeling unclean. I just I'm traumatized by it, to be honest with you. Traumatized.
And on that bombshell, welcome to this week's edition of the Petty and Ill-Informed podcast, where tonight we will be discussing a variety of topics.
You bastard.
I hate you so much. For like 5 minutes now, we've been. Oh, I hate you.
Yeah.
You're a
As soon
dick.
as you said start cleaning my vag, I was like, okay, well, I'm not losing this. This is being recorded for posterity.
Ah.
That's all right. You don't have to worry about it, Nikki. Don't don't get
oh,
don't let it
oh,
get you
brilliant.
down. Don't
Such
let
a
I mean everybody has to do it. I'm saying at least we talk about things
Yeah.
in an open and honest way. You know. It's
yeah,
not like
yeah.
you could tell that if we were doing this for like sort of any kind of effect, we'd be like, "Oh yeah, cleaning your fag. Oh, well, how's that look?" You know. And it's just not it. It's just it's a function. You're cleaning a body part. Get over it. I mean, unless you want to make it sexy.
I don't know
But
how.
yeah, I mean, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, there's probably some video somewhere of how that's supposed to be sexy. You can get sensual massage video,
That's a lot easier than, you know,
cleaning my
sensual
badge.
sensual labia cleaning 101 or whatever.
Uh huh.
I love
Just
how
saying.
you're owning it and just accepting it and just
Yeah,
moving on.
I am. We're just gonna talk about vaginas. I know you
Well,
had something way more important.
well, there's no shame in the game. That's
That's
all I'm
right.
saying.
That's right. You need to be clean.
Yeah.
All right then, good. Glad you two are happy.
And
I'm
and
going to be
Richard.
happy when I re-listen to this tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Gonna be like,
Richard,
yes.
you have been traumatized by the 100-year storm, the 100-mile-an-hour
Oh yeah,
storm.
Storm Eunice. What an
Yeah.
absolute bloody waste of everyone's time that was. I mean, not down south, obviously. Down south, they got their ass handed to them. But up here in the north, nothing happened. It got a little bit windy.
Yeah, but you're protected by Ireland. You see. Well, I was looking at it. I was
No,
looking
I'm right on the corner in between Ireland and Scotland.
right, but
Nothing.
but I'm saying is okay. Northern Ireland does extend north of your location, probably by what 50 or 100 miles. So I mean, it would sweep around you. You know what I mean? And down south, it's the same thing. I noticed that it was like Cornwall, part of Wales, the so, those places down there that was going to get it. You know what I mean? And so I didn't talk to anybody. I mean, I had talked to my cousin this week, and I'm like, okay, she was battening down the hatches, ready for the thing to go, and I was imagining, slate roofs being ripped off and all those different things. But apparently that didn't happen.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, and you're upset
No,
about that.
yeah, I spent a good 2 days preparing. I put a tent around the greenhouse. I checked all the roof tiles. I tore down, put all the bird feeders away, checked for anything loose in the garden, and nothing happened. It just got a little bit windy. I'm just like, oh, okay. Because they didn't even warn us about Storm Desmond 5 years ago that absolutely destroyed Carlisle. I mean, literally destroyed half the city. But bloody Storm Eunice, load of fuss about nothing. The only thing they've ever been right about was the beast from the east. That's the only time the weather forecasters ever got anything right.
Right. Well, it's a and the funny part about it is that they should be able to predict it much better than now.
Mm.
Because they used to put weather ships off the coast of Iceland, and they would use that as a predictor of how the weather front would be in Britain and those places like that. And it seems like that was more accurate than the Doppler satellite radar. But anyway,
Weather predictions always never been an exact science, let's be honest.
no, it is.
It is an exact science.
It is an exact science. See, that's the thing. It's science, so therefore that's it. That's it.
That's your statement, is it? It is an exact science.
Well, it's a science, but that's what I'm saying. But I mean, this is the prediction part of science. I'm saying we get it wrong a lot. I mean, you only in anything you only just take your best guess about something till it happens. That's all I'm saying. But it
Hmm.
was, but then again, it did seem like it was being used to absolutely scare the crap out of people. You know what I mean? And that's the part that I don't like.
Welcome to what America is.
No, I mean I get that.
Literally every storm in America. Oh my gosh! Hide your kids, hide your wife,
Oh
and then
yeah,
nothing
no, I
happens.
know. I mean, this is the thing. But this idea of I mean this used to be a big thing, Nikki. That America was supposedly 10 years ahead of us in sort of the stages of development, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so people used to say, okay, well, you know, like there's these violent shows on TV in America, blah 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 blah, and then all of a sudden there's some violent shows that show up on British TV or this or that or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Anything like that. And so this is the old idea that they realize what works, and so they just then adopt that for the British market. You know what I mean?
It's just
The-
it's a lot easier to control citizens when they're in fear for their lives all the time, literally every day about something new and stupid.
well, yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, you know, this is the whole idea of Brexit. Whether, and I don't know if Richard has an opinion on this or not, but it seems to me like the whole point of that was just scaring the crap out of people over and over again. And
Yep.
then at that point in time, you know, because of our own inane or inbred prejudice, which we all do have, you
Hmm.
know, and whatever. Um, yeah, then we go along with it because that feels good, you know. It feels good to just have people around you that are just like you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If
We,
I never heard Brexit ever again in my life, I would die a happy man. I can't tell you how we had that shoved down our throats on a daily basis.
right, and it
Whereas
doesn't seem like
Gabby brought up the Michael Fish incident where the woman called in to say a hurricane was coming, and he famously said it wasn't a hurricane, and then was fired 3 days later.
Let me guess. It was a hurricane.
Oh, it was a hurricane. It destroyed what was it, 75% of the countries. The hurricane of '87
but
absolutely
Wow.
smashed us.
but I, you know, that's one of those things where I mean, whether you voted for it, whether you didn't, I mean, I think that what some of that varies between where you live and your opinion on it. I mean, I think if you were in England and you voted for Brexit, makes it very different from being in Northern Ireland and voting for Brexit. And I think a lot of people don't understand that there was reasons I've always felt why a Northern Irish person shouldn't vote for Brexit, and some of those are coming to fruition now. You know what I mean? Because we still
Yeah,
don't.
well, the most obvious of that is like, what? How does it affect you?
Yeah,
I
yeah, and
mean, are you
we
still in the European Union because the Republic is? Is there like a checkpoint between Northern and Southern Ireland now? You're technically entering the European Union when you go to the Republic of the Island.
Well,
I mean,
yeah. It's but you see, this is the thing that's always been one of those things, and I don't think that they understood that because of the fact that when you were writing all these different things, whenever they had the partition agreement, things were written into to certain things. So obviously, there was a reason why Irish Republican people could work up north and have an Irish public. I mean, some people lived their whole life up north and never had a British passport. They did everything on a Republican passport, you know. And so again, um, this is the thing. I don't know how they're going to address this, but I have a British passport and I have a Republic of Ireland passport, and I'm a citizen of both countries. Now, how can that be? I'm actually a citizen of the United States too, so I have three passports. Most people don't have that, you know. They're all in my same name. I mean, it's not like they say James Bond or anything on them, but
I don't think anyone would believe them if they did.
right. But what I'm saying is it's a weird thing where you know it's like, well, I'm a British citizen, I'm an American citizen, and I'm an Irish citizen. I mean, I'm glad I still have my Irish citizenship, and I think that if you check to see the amount of people who ended up getting an Irish passport who live up north was huge. You know what I mean? Because after all was said and done, they wanted access to the EU. You know, and
Yeah.
that was what that was. They wanted to be able to buy land or work or whatever I mean, so if you're from Northern Ireland, you can still own your little wee home in Benidorm and get fish and chips in 100-degree heat, which is all that matters.
There was something that I didn't understand. You know, a lot of the Swallows voted for Brexit as well.
Yeah,
And I'm just, what were you thinking? Do you know what I mean?
yeah. Well, I know that was just that. I mean, I think that was. And you're talking about people who go south for the winter or
Who go
whatever.
to
Yeah,
Spain,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. People, not actual birds. But yeah, no, they voted for it. Absolutely, they were down in Spain, and the people would go down there and say, "Where are you going to vote?" Yeah, I'm voting out. You know, because and
And
I
like
can,
this, the Spanish famously hate us and
yes,
really don't like us being in their country.
no,
And for you to vote to leave, you know, their country, you've just handed them an excuse on a silver platter to deport you. And I
right.
just, why would you do that?
Well, yeah, I think it's. I mean, because people don't understand what EU status does. If you are, if you were, if you're elder, an older person, you're going to Spain because you want to, live in the sun and everything like that. You're going to end up with some health problems and things like that. And what the EU allows you to do is to have payments between countries for medical expenses. You know what I mean? I mean, Americans wouldn't understand that because they have that's not how it works here. But I mean, if you were living in Spain and you were from Britain, then technically the NHS should pay for your care while you're in Spain. You know what I mean? And that's not what we were doing, not what we're doing now. So, yeah, they're going to say, get out.
While we're talking about Brexit, do you know what really irritates me was that they made it something we could vote for without having a plan in place for it.
Right.
I mean, what did they just genuinely think people were going to vote no and the whole thing was going to go away?
Well, I think that the interesting part about it is that we didn't know what we were voting on in the first place. I did vote in the Brexit referendum. I mean, I think anybody could figure out what I voted for at this point. It doesn't matter. But at the time, I was like, yeah, we don't know what we're voting for. And all these things that you're saying, all these things that, Nigel Farage and Boris Johnson and all that, they were all lies. Everything they said was a lie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All this shit. And then we voted for it. And then it's like Nigel Farage then becomes a radio host, and Boris becomes a prime minister, and nobody cares that he's never told the truth a day in his life.
But that's
I mean,
sort of like a prerequisite to be a politician, though.
well, yeah, I guess so. I guess so.
We'd never put anyone who tells the truth in power. I mean,
Nah.
that just is stupid.
Right.
What's wrong with you, Kevin?
No, I understand.
I mean, we put Trump in charge, a man who was incapable of, not saying a single thing that came into his head. And look what happened there.
Well, that's because you don't understand the genius of it.
Not that I've got a problem with. Not that I've got a problem with Trump's presidency.
Yeah,
I'm just
Ah.
saying his Twitter account is what I have a problem
you
with.
don't understand 5D chess.
Not just 4D, 5D.
No, 5D. I'd say put 60 chess.
That sounds like a good time.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there are a lot of double D's on his mind for sure.
Well, what I can't understand is that, and the one thing that I will say this, right? I mean, Melania could do anything in her life she wanted to do, and good for her. But, there are several pictures of her scantily clad, draped all over some stuff. There's one where she's, kind of got like a pasty over each nipple and something over her groin.
I love the graphic detail you're giving us right now, Kevin. But could you get to the point?
No,
Yeah,
no,
I would like to know what the point is because
the
who
point.
cares?
No, the
Who
point.
cares
No,
what she's dressed
no.
up
This
as and
is the
posed for?
thing. But then everybody was like, "Oh, what a classy lady! A classy." I mean, what a classy lady. Look, we finally have a first lady with class, and to me, that was clearly.
What's unclassy about a beautiful woman that's proud of her body and not ashamed to show it off?
Well, no, I don't have a problem with that, but I'm saying these are the same sort of.
Well, you
uh
clearly do, or you wouldn't have brought it up.
No, listen, I'm not the one that's calling her classy. I would have just called her a woman. You know what I mean? All I'm saying is that Michelle Obama didn't do anything wrong, technically. She was a well-spoken, articulate woman, and everybody hated her. And I still don't understand why that was, because they secretly thought she was a dude.
Yeah, that's so dumb. Who
Yeah,
cares? Even if she was, let's just say that she is. Who cares?
yeah.
Does that affect anything? No, it
Because
never affected anything. Who cares?
no, the draw on her pantsuit or her dress made it look like she had a dong. Apparently, like
She could have
like
been. She could have been wearing a pad. I've seen that picture, and not to get like too gross, but if you're a heavier flow gal, those pads are like diapers.
yeah.
It could have just as easily been a pad that she was wearing in her underwear. Because, sorry, but not all women can wear tampons, and that
So
help
you're
anything.
saying that it was a pad that was riding up.
I think that no, well, okay, so they have these pads, especially after you give birth, that go from like your belly button to like the top of the crack of your ass or your shoulder blades. Like they're really big. But some women, depending on if they have any issues or just heavy, they can't just wear a tampon. If you want it to get more than 30 minutes to an hour, you got to do both. So these are real thick pads too. It's like wearing a diaper. So it
Mm,
very easily could have just been, it was tight. The angle showed the bulge of the diaper of the pad.
right,
I think really honestly that's what it was.
right.
Because all of their little finger analysis and stuff, like yes, you can tell testosterone levels sort of from fingertips, like how you're whatever. But I have those fingertips too, and
Or those
I,
sort of the rounded fingertips that have
no,
the.
it's more like the it's the ring finger in comparison to the length of your index finger.
Right.
So if your ring finger is longer than your index finger, then you probably grew up with more testosterone.
Oh.
Really feel like this show is getting away from us right now.
Absolutely. Go ahead. I was just being helpful.
What are you talking about? I think that's actually I wouldn't have known that. What Richard?
We're now we're discussing pads in Michelle Obama's pads, or whether or not she has a penis or not.
Well,
I feel like that we've gone radically
Oh,
off.
I'm
topic.
sorry. Let's talk about Brexit for 20 more minutes.
that's no. It's a
Yeah,
relevant.
no,
it's
it's
a
not going
rele-
well at all.
It's a relevant observation. This was kind of a smorgasbord. We knew that.
We did know that going in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we also need to talk about Kevin's trip to the hospital. And,
Matthew Johnson. I want to call him a cunt.
Well,
do you want to
talk.
go
You want
Matthew? Do Matthew Johnson first, and then we'll talk
Yeah,
about Kevin.
I think so, because I have some observations about whenever I was in the hospital and the reality of realism and how you can convince yourself that almost anything is happening given the right drugs and lack of sleep.
There you go.
There
Yeah.
we go. Well, that's a nice segue, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we can just bounce onto that. So most of you, a lot of our fans know me from when I used to write a Bigfoot blog, and I used to call Matthew Johnson a cunt a lot because I don't like him and I think he's a cunt. He was trying to build a Bigfoot cult in Oregon at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He moved to Washington eventually, but it used to be the Southern Oregon Habitation Area, or SOHA.
There was two of them. There was
Yeah.
SOHA, Southern Oregon Habitation Area, But well, first of all, there was the one that because he lived in Washington first, and that was the one where Joe Rogan went, and so
Yeah.
he lived there, and that was I think that was Hoo Ha, Woha, Washington, Wa Waha, Washington habituation, and then he had a Southern Oregon habituation area, and then he had the Southern Oregon interaction area. That was where where all the good stuff happened, except for when Adam Davies and John Carlson saw the portal. That was at Soha. Soha, yes, Southern Oregon habitation area, and there's a sign of Adam Davies and John Carlson rebuking these things that are coming out of the what they consider to be a portal. So uh, I mean, again, this is the idea. Anyway, go ahead.
Right. Yeah. Well. Right. Yeah. So there was Southern Oregon habituation area until Stephen Struford and Jamie Wayne finally managed to track it down. And I remember having a conversation with Steve Alcorn at the time. And he was like, "Hey, man, why aren't you talking about this in your blog? The fact that Struford and Wayne found Toha." And I was like, "There's literally no point because he's just going to turn around and say that the Bigfoot told him to move locations to somewhere else. And the next day, he releases, he says that Zorth contacted him through Mindspeak and told him to move. And so they set up the Southern Oregon interaction area.
Mm-hmm.
And
which was the one I went to. But he was pissed. He was pissed. There was a day and a half or 2 days where he was super pissed about it.
Well,
And
yeah, he said repeatedly that no one was ever going to find it. The Bigfoot had protected it, and then they found it.
Right.
So,
and then he sort of had to come back and change gears and move towards the other thing.
Yeah, I can imagine he was super angry. I can imagine he was super angry when Bob Gimlin said that he didn't write the foreword for his book. Jesus, is there any way to stop? Sorry, I'm getting a bunch of Facebook messages and the sound keeps going off and I'm trying to switch it off.
And I think he
right click on the tab and click mute this site.
I tried that.
I'm going to say I think Bob Gimlin did write it.
Hmm.
And I'll stand by that. I think Bob Gimlin told him. I think that was when he started to write it, when Tom Yamaron was still sort of on the scene, and he finished it when Russell LaCord was on the scene. And one of the first things that happened is that they said you don't want to associate with that anymore, because he had spoken once or twice, I think, by that point at Matthew Johnson's conferences. He was kind of the guest of honor, and he knew what people were coming up with. You know what I mean? He'd listened to Matt. He'd listened to, people like Joe Hauser and Ron Moorhead and places like that. So he knew that that group was into weirder stuff. And I'd spoken to Bob, and Bob said, yeah, in his estimation, he thought that the creature was more human than it was ape. You know what I mean? So anyway, long story short, I think he did write it.
But those were the two major things I genuinely believe would have really pissed him off.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine what he was like after they discovered Soha. He must have been so angry.
No, yeah, he was super pissed, and that's the thing. But the thing with Matt is because he's an intelligent man.
He's intelligent and he's charismatic, to give him credit.
That when he gets put into that weird position of having to, back things up or move it, he's very adaptable. He's very adaptable to things moving or ignoring what's happened. He does have a tendency to, if somebody would say, this is happening and this is not what you say it is. He has a tendency to be able to ignore that. You know what I mean? He's
Yep.
very good at that. Just to pretend it didn't happen. You know,
Hmm.
and
Yeah, we're getting there, Frank. We're getting there. Don't worry.
what so what were we getting into the story? Frank's
No,
like,
no, no. Well, yeah, it's kind of pertinent to the story, but yeah, Frank brought it up, and I'm like, we're on our way there. Don't worry, Frank. I was just giving a bit of back.
I was giving you the benefit of a person who really knows him. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and actually went to
Yeah.
Sawyer and
Right.
saw a pterodactyl. So
Yes. But again, this is one of those things where I mean, and I was talking to Richter about this on the one when we were planning the last show, and he wanted to know about some things, and I just said to him, yeah, I'd seen some weird shit, and looking back on it, do I regret it being in Bigfoot and everything like that? And I said, well, the only problem with that is that if I didn't say what I thought it was, and then it turned out to be true that somebody had discovered it, I can't go back. I can't go back and change the past. You
mm,
know, like Ron Moorhead has tried to go back and change his story in some degrees with him and Al Barry. You know, like they were recording something and everything like that, and then all these sort of supernatural things had happened. And then he says, "Well, I couldn't say it at the time because Al Barry didn't want me to." But going back and retrofitting it never helps. And that's what Matt Johnson had to do, was that, whenever he first saw the Bigfoot at the Oregon caves, he never mentions the fact that it disappears. And then he
no.
had to go back 20 years later, and then it did,
Hmm.
which makes it sound like he doesn't know what the hell's going on. So I just had to say, okay, this is what I think I experienced. I can look at it from a different standpoint, but at this point in time, that's what it looked like to me. You know what I mean? So therefore, I know it sounds crazy. I know it's not that, but I can't go. I mean, I can go back. I can't go. I mean, I'm not going to go back and say, "Oh, I saw a big bird." Oh, well, it was really a pterodactyl. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I might as well go for the full crazy up front.
Might as well. So so yeah, there was nothing special with the Southern Oregon habituation area. Jeffrey Kelly said it best when he was like, "There's nothing different about the area that he's chosen to research, other than he's just decided that's what he's going to research." And back in the beginning, he was very much flesh and blood, and then his sound cloud was filled with sounds he said were Bigfoot, but were just ordinary forest noises. And then we moved into more wooier because the entire community was getting more wooier, and that's where the money was and the attention was. He fancied himself to be the next Lapidus, and he didn't. The great reveal, he jumped the shark when he said that he saved the entire Bigfoot race. He became a faith healer, started telling people suffering from very serious diseases that he could heal them with his magic Bigfoot. And yeah, he just I don't know what the word is, tailspan. Just
Well, at that point in time, everything took on a little bit more of a sort of a supernatural bent to it. That
mm,
it, that Bigfoot were not really Bigfoot. Well, you can't call them Bigfoot. You have to call them Xanu. These Xanu, and I
yeah.
refused. I refused to call them that. So that
Well,
was
you
me
would, wouldn't
out.
you?
Well, yeah. I mean, what he said that's what they told me that they wanted me to call it, and I'm like, well,
Mm,
they tell me that. Why wouldn't they tell me that? If you want me to, I mean, so at that point in time, it was just like, okay, he arbitrarily, in my opinion, comes up with this name we're supposed to call it, and everybody. I mean, at that point in time, you could see who was a full believer, which I ended up not being. I like Matt, but I don't. I never did sort of go along with all the different things he had. But the full believer, things, because they would change that right away. They would, the next day he would say, "Well, you need to call Xanu." So then they would, and then the evil ones in the woods are Tracon. So he started to divide them up into different things.
You know what it reminds me of? Scientology.
Well,
Exactly.
it is sort of similar to Dianetics in a way, and
It's
then
completely the same thing, basically,
Even the
yeah,
names and stuff. Like, really?
yeah, and then
except that they're Bigfoot souls and not alien souls.
but I
Right.
But
think,
but the thing I want to point out about that is that he claimed to have saved about 30,000 Bigfoot through a portal. He was an avid Trump supporter. Well, he still is. Zorth. In the end, Trump wins. That's what Zorth said.
right?
Might be a bit
Has
late, but
he come out and discussed that? Like,
he's
No,
still saying it.
yeah, he's still saying it.
He's
wow.
still saying it, and he's. So my angle at the time was, he can't be much of a Trump supporter if he allowed 30,000 undocumented illegals into the country.
True.
Yeah, where
I
was
mean,
the
did
wall?
they go through immigration? I don't think so.
What good is a wall if you've got a portal? That's what I want
Exactly.
to. And but you're forgetting the other relevant group. There's 3 relevant groups. So we've talked about 2 of them. The last one being the Zijaiko,
Oh
who
God,
the Zijaiko is the demon figures
there's a
that
demon Bigfoot. Russ
that ha-
Muck in the old
no,
chat.
they have
He's trying to be
nothing.
a cult leader. You're right, Russ. Sorry, Kevin.
And no, but those he was convinced that those were the ones that had killed his dog, that the Zijaiko had killed his dog, Zeus, and So anyway, we
He
had to
was an
deal.
irresponsible dog owner. That's what killed his dog. He just lets him run
Hey,
around.
hey, I would love to talk trash, like, and
Yeah.
continue, but what is this about Magic Johnson?
No,
Magic Johnson.
Matthew Johnson, not Magic Johnson. He was
Did he
shooting
say
from the
Magic
3.
Johnson? I'm okay.
He was, but he no he well, Matthew Johnson actually was recruited by some professional team. I think it was the Philadelphia, whatever, something.
Yeah, he was going to
Philadelphia.
be the next great basketball
Oh my
player,
gosh.
wasn't
Okay, stop. I
he?
was
No, he
reading
was.
the thing. Listen, know the thing. Okay,
No.
continue.
He seriously was going to be the next big basketball player in
Oh,
college, and then
he's very huge. I mean,
he blew out his knee,
mm-hmm.
and then he decided he was going to be the next Dr. Phil.
Yeah.
I found a magazine article from his college where he said he was literally going to be the next Dr. Phil. That didn't happen either. So now he's a cult leader, but that's pretty much a brief history of Matthew Johnson.
But that's interesting that he wanted to be like Dr. Phil. Not that he actually wanted to help anybody, but he wanted to be on TV looking like he was helping people.
Well, it's the same process. The only difference between Matthew Johnson and Dr. Phil is that Dr. Phil has a healthy narcissistic process and Matthew Johnson has an unhealthy narcissistic process. I realize that narcissism has become a 4-letter word, but it's only bad when it's a disorder. Everyone should have a healthy narcissistic process.
Yep.
Right.
Anyway,
and it should be said. It should be said that none of us are psychiatrists or psychologists. So if we use terms that are in the general zeitgeist, it's not. We're not diagnosing them. We
Absolutely
can't.
not.
We can't do that.
No, we're not.
Yeah.
All right. What was the point? What is the story?
Okay, so and A space NG from the chat room pointing out that he did frame a bear turd and take it on tour, claiming it to be a Bigfoot poop, which doesn't make any sense if they're all just lies. But whatever. Anyway, so that brings us up to now a brief history of Matthew Johnson, and I blogged about it for a long time. I was on the 40 slip at the time as well, and I called him a cunt a lot because I recognised him being a cunt. And then I stopped for a long time. I got into the First Amendment auditing community. I started blogging against them because they suck and they're evil and they must be stopped. But lately, one of my old moles, who's in Planet Xanu or whatever it's called, his new super secret Facebook,
And it's not me, by the way,
It's not Kevin.
because I
What
think
am I-
I'm still a member of that, but I'm not sure. I might have been kicked out. But I just want people to know for sure that if you are making a post in that, I have never given anybody a post from a private place, just so anybody knows.
Kevin hasn't. It was a completely different person. Shut up, Russ. They're the worst people alive. And yeah, so it was an old mole who sent me a few pictures from his new group. It was blurry pictures of nothing, as it always was. But I was like, man, you know what? I'm feeling nostalgic. So I'll write a blog about it, about how he took 2 pictures of a couple of Zuziko on his land, and how he took some pictures of Zorth coming through a portal on his land. I was like, you know, this does remind me of old times. So you know what? I'll blog it up. But it was the second one, the one that he made after my blog, that just. Do you know what I mean? I wrote it up in a second blog, but basically he's claiming that that a bunch of Xanu on his land, Xanadudu, whatever they're called, captured these Zuziku demons or whatever and forced them to pose for a picture. That is legit what he's saying. That I'm not making that up. That is legitimate. His claim. Hold on.
It's the forcing to pose. It's the
I
forcing.
know. I just picture these demons all like crying, like while they're taking sexy photos. Like just,
It's like somebody down.
I feel so used.
Somebody down at the Sears photo lab. Now stand there. Hold this in your hand. Now hold it.
So here we are, regarding an update from Zorth, the leader of the Council of 12, regarding the 2 Zuxiku demons at our back door that our toy fox terrier, Champ, was growling at Monday night. It turns out these Xanu warriors captured the 2 Zuxiku demons on our property while they were conducting a reconnaissance mission. Jesus wept. If you remember, during the summer of 2021, there was a battle between the Xanu and the Zuxiku near our previously owned property. The Zuzico killed 9 Xanu warriors. Really? They're orbs of light. How? Therefore, a Xanu warrior executed 53 Zuzico. Good win for the Xanu. Good win for the Xanu. I have some of the executions recorded via my bionic ear parabolic microphone dish.
Oh my goodness!
I'm not even gonna respond to that. I'm just gonna like that one. The Xanu allowed the remaining Zuxico to leave without harm. However, the Xanu gave the Zuxico a stern warning to leave Cynthia and me alone. Oh, sorry, me, the 13th, alone. Got to remember that 13th part. And never come back, or they would execute everyone without mercy. Because of course they're like the best, lawful good all the way. Nothing like executing people in cold blood. Well, as previously stated, the Xanu warriors caught the 2 Zuxico demons on our property, and Zorth knows that I like collecting evidence to prove that what I've been saying for the teaching for the past 22 years is true. Again, I am just going to let that one stand.
Despite the fact that he has 0 evidence.
Despite the fact that he's got...
I like to have my evidence that I'm never going to show you. I'm just going to talk about it for 6 months.
Yeah.
Well, the pictures were. I mean, you did have pictures of the Zijaiko
here we go.
in the back window.
So here we go. So therefore, Zorth made an offer to the 2 captured Zuzico demons, because he's got to explain every time. Go to Matt and Cynthia's back door, sit there and let them photograph both of you. Then we will let you go. Otherwise, we will simply execute both of you right now, as we promised. Needless to say, the 2 Zuzico demons, again, thank you for the explanation because we haven't been able to keep up, chose to sit on our back door. Champ growled when he saw them, which got my attention. I started taking pictures, and the rest is history. And here is the pictures of the 2 Zuzico demons. So this is not something I'm making up, ladies and gentlemen. He literally said that his group of imaginary Bigfoot captured 2 imaginary demons and then made them pose for a picture. And this is the picture he's provided. You cannot make this shit up if I tried. This is
No.
stranger than fiction. This is insanity. This is the edge of insanity. The man is nuts.
Yeah. I
Sorry.
mean, that's
Okay. Sorry.
that,
You talk.
no, that's, I mean, you know, the fact that you're having spiritual battles, but isn't that the thing whenever I mean, let's put it this way. I mean, the fact that you've got history of this type of thing, and then you have these spiritual battles again. I'm not a psychiatrist, but it would be interesting. It would be interesting to ask Matt if he had, if Matt could analyze himself. What would this mean? What would he interpret this to mean? If he had if he had a client that was doing this.
Analyzing yourself
Yeah,
means that you need to have some amount of self-awareness, and I don't know, he might have lost that by now. I mean, there comes a point where you fling so much shit, you start to believe it.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
And you
and
gotta wonder
I
how
will
much of
say
this
this.
he believes. Like, is he
No,
really
he really
just
believe
lost it?
he really believes it. I can
No,
tell
I
you
know
that.
he really believes it. I get that
Yeah.
part. But, like, has he, is this man suffering at all?
Well, that's my question.
He's
If
making me suffer.
if he feels like he's under attack at his house,
Hmm.
and he was sort of driven out of his last house by these evil demonish type creatures, and so that, and therefore you've got this messiah figure that comes in and fixes it. I mean, this is I mean, we're not far off from making Bigfoot into sort of, Jesus type figures.
Right.
You're not far off from making Zorth into Jesus. And I know
Well,
I
but
know I'm
here's my thing. If he
yeah.
was so powerful, if he was the 13th, if all of this stuff, why was he chased out of his house?
Well, I think that with interestingly enough, I was involved with this 13 thing, and
Mhm.
so I have an intimate knowledge of it. But the he is supposed to be, um, the representative of, like the spokesperson for the Council of 12. This is what he's supposed to be. So he's not supposed to have any sort of superpowers.
I know,
Just
but he has good friends.
right. I understand that, but I mean, it's just one of those things where he he speaks to the. I mean, and I've always asked him, how does he speak? Do they say words to you? How do you get this? I mean, because it seems to me language would be so inefficient.
Mhm.
When if you were getting a telepathy type thing, like language is really inefficient. If you're getting telepathy that says no, Matt, or yes, or whatever, it seems to me like you would get big visions of something, and then, as with everything, if that's true and possible, it could be that Matt is interpreting the wrong thing. You know what I mean? I've always said that. That
Okay, but like that's the let's say everything he said is true, right?
right,
Let's just humor it just
right.
for a minute and pretend everything he says is true. How does he know that he didn't let a bunch of demons through this portal?
He
You
doesn't.
know,
He does.
I'm just saying, even if he's telling the truth, he might still be dangerous and insane.
Well, what I'm saying is, and what I'll say about this is this. Uh, as far as the idea of letting these beings in,
Mm.
the only two people who were awake to witness it were, I mean, he's always involving the other two people. They're saying there was three people involved in there. That's not true. There were not three people involved with that whole thing that he's saying. He and his child Grady were the only two people who supposedly witnessed this exodus. So
Well, I
therefore,
thought Mike Kincaid was there as well.
He was, but he's asleep. And so Mike Kincaid was asleep the whole time. I mean, I've spoken to Mike. Mike is a very, very, sweet man, and and everything like that. But apparently he was asleep, slept through the whole thing. And it wasn't
Because it
until
didn't
he got
happen.
up, huh?
Said because it didn't happen.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can make your own. I mean, you can make how Mike came to peace with it was because he got up the next day and asked for some kind of confirmation that had happened. He walked away from the camp and he said, I need some kind of a confirmation that happened. And then at that point in time, he heard either a combination of knocking and sounds or whatever that made him believe that it had happened. So he was basically asking for confirmation after the fact. He didn't experience in the moment.
Right.
Just so you know, Steve Bachman had already left, and so the previous night before he couldn't stay there. So it basically comes down to Grady and Matt Johnson's story. And Grady had said that he saw like this little being of and right enough. I will say this: whenever I was at Soya, I did see some weird shit in the bushes, that light formations and stuff like that. Like I said, does that mean that I was experiencing Bigfoot or some kind of a strange phenomena in the woods or some kind of a strange phenomena in my head? Like I said,
Uh,
it's you don't know.
So I'm gonna leap off this topic now and let you talk about your hospital thing. But before I do, if I'd been captured and forced to be making poses for a picture, this would not be the fucking best I could do. Let me tell you. I would be like duck facing in crystal clear HD format if my life depended on it. This blurry mess that could be anything.
Yeah.
I think they should be executed anyway, personally.
I think, yeah. I think if you're going to be put in that position, you got to hang out with your wang out.
Yeah, you got to go full, got to give it all your own. I mean, got to pose, got to
Yeah.
strike up your sexiest pose and really be, 100% clear. This blurry mess. Yeah,
Right.
nah, they
I
should get
I
killed anyway.
I agree with you. You got to go full incubus or succubus, you
Mm.
know, because that's what that's why maybe that's what the problem is. Maybe he secretly likes I don't know, dude. I'm not gonna go there. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna go there.
let's not. Let's not. You let me rant. That was a good rant. Go,
Yeah.
go.
All
Talk
right.
about
Well,
your husband stuff.
all I'm saying is that to go along with this idea, and I was thinking about it over the last weeks, couple of weeks, because whenever I was in the hospital, you know, I I got what was called ICU delusion or uh,
Delirium.
delirium. And basically what it is because of the fact that I'm a diabetic and I had a heart attack, they were waking me up every hour to take blood samples and all this other stuff, move me around. And I'd actually been in a medically induced coma for 3 days. So I was on some pretty sweet drugs. And then I was on some pretty sweet drugs. Then I wake up, hadn't slept for a week, and I started to have these uh, experiences that were fantastically real. And one of them involved a friend of mine who's a nurse, and I thought for sure that she had set this up. Like I'm saying that she had come to the ICU while I was asleep and built this set around my room, and so therefore I wasn't really in the hospital. I was I was out of the hospital, and she and her friend had got it in, and she got all these nurses from the ICU to come in and just basically kind of fuck with me the whole time, right? Which didn't happen because I was getting up and down out of the bed, and they ended up strapping me to they ended up like tying me to the bed. I was restrained at that point in time, which I liked because it made me feel safe. You know what I mean? Because I knew that they wouldn't do that
Are you
unless,
really not going to say anything, Nikki?
you know.
I was gonna let him tell his story. I wasn't just gonna interrupt him. I heard that yes, you told the nurses that you felt very secure and you were very relieved by
I was
being
I
restrained.
I was very relieved in the thing because what I had thought was is that they were trying to coax me out of the room and into the hallway. And whenever they came in and restrained me to the bed, that I actually sort of was devoid of responsibility anymore. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? I was trying to be responsible for other patients, and I'm really glad that I hadn't done it. Now I talked to them. Apparently, sometimes they give people Ambien in the hospital. That's the first time that they've ever been on Ambien. They don't know anything
Mhm.
about it, and then you get like 53-year-old men running naked down the hallway back and
Yep.
forth, and you gotta you gotta
Uh
try to capture them.
Ambien will mess with you. I remember my nephew and I were going to go on a road trip and he couldn't sleep, so I gave him an Ambien. And I was like, just take it, go lay down on the couch. And he came in like 30 minutes to an hour later, just freaking out. Like apparently he thought that he had went back into a closet, but what he had done is just slid himself down the wall um against the door, like against the wall of my room. And when I asked him what was going on, he was like, "Don't you see them? Don't you hear them?" We had a cooler in the living room and he had been sleeping on the couch, and in his mind there was a cockroach and millipede like mariachi band playing on the cooler, and they just wouldn't shut up, and it freaked him out.
Right. And I'm
Um,
sure it was I'm sure it was 99.9% real. That's what I'm saying.
yeah.
So what I will say is now going back to your story, Richard, and putting this into a little bit of a context.
Right.
When when Matt Johnson takes you anywhere, and I'm not accusing him of anything. I'm just saying this is just the facts of the matter. When you agree to go up camping with Matt Johnson, right? You meet very early in the morning and you go get all your stuff and you end up going up the mountain, and he doesn't like it when you're up there in the daytime. Okay. So the first night you're there, you don't really experience anything. He tells you that you're not going to experience it the first night. Second or the third night, you're going to start experiencing. The next morning, you know, you're not sleeping in a tent. Remember that. You're not allowed to sleep in a tent. So you've got at this point in time, your sleeping bag, the dew point is pretty low. So whenever you wake up in the morning, your sleeping bag is soaking wet. You're not allowed to have a fire up there. You know, you're not allowed to. You're supposed to pee in the bushes and poop in a thing that people can basically see you pooping in. You know what I mean? This is all part of his protocol, and so it's very stressful on your body. You see what I'm saying? You're exhausted by the first morning because you didn't sleep. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so therefore, then you go down the mountain and you go to these different locations and blah, blah, blah. Then you come back up the mountain and then they do the things. And, at that point in time, some people start to see things. And then on the third day, most people start to see things. I'm just saying that given the fact of the delirium aspect of it,
Mhm.
that that I don't. I mean, because everybody used to say to me, "Well, Richter used to say, well, he's drugging him. He's drugging him." And I said, "No, he didn't drug me. I know he didn't drug me because I didn't take anything that I didn't bring up the mountain. I know it was not drugs that caused this issue, right?
Right.
I think it's a psychological delirium that you get
Right.
in but
It's sleeplessness and peer pressure. That's how most cults do it.
I need to go just once because joke's on him. I can sleep through anything.
She really can.
right. Well, I
He'd
mean,
be like, "Okay," everybody else would be exhausted and be like, "How did you sleep?" Man, as soon as my you know, head hit the pillow or the ground or whatever. I can sleep anywhere. Just give me 5 minutes and I'm out.
Right. Well, I
I'm
mean,
perpetually exhausted. So that would be my secret.
yeah, but it is an interesting thing that when you know,
I mean, that's how they do it in the military too.
yeah,
They're
and
gonna
by the
keep you
third
up,
day,
keep you exhausted. You're
yeah,
gonna you're gonna see crap because you haven't slept.
right.
You know.
Well, I think that I read someplace one day that they said 3 days without sleep, it's like a psychosis. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah.
You're in psychosis.
That's
So
what happens to people that are in manic phases when they start seeing stuff like bipolar people who haven't, if they're off their meds, it's not the bipolar per se that's making them act that way. I mean, a lot of the times it's exhaustion. My brother, at least when he was in a manic phase, he didn't sleep for days at a time and he would just kind of lose his mind.
mhm,
I've seen him crawl like army crawling across my floor thinking that he was going to go save his shoe. I don't know, but
right,
he hadn't slept in 4 days. So obviously he's going to be a bit off his rocker. I
right,
mean, at that point you're basically asleep.
right. Well, I think the reason that I brought it up more than anything was because of the fact that, certain people, Richter was one of them. If you ever said anything he didn't like, he'd just say you're a hoaxer, right? And I didn't agree with that because people are experiencing things that they, believe that they experienced. That doesn't make them a liar. It doesn't make them a hoax. To me, if you're hoaxing, you're lying. And
On
the
purpose, yeah.
yeah, and I don't think
You're
you
intentionally trying to
right.
mislead people.
And I think that the very fact that your mind is a very fragile thing,
Mhm.
and the fact that, I mean, I don't know if that has any. I mean, I'm not going to make the connection that he is a psychiatrist, but if your mind is a very fragile thing,
Well, I mean, you're up there with no real sleep for
right,
days with
right,
heavy, heavy suggestion that you're going to see something.
right. Oh, I'm 100% with you. So
Yeah,
I
peer
mean,
pressure and sleeplessness.
yeah.
Mhm.
So I think in a lot of ways, the thing that you'd have to say about that is that um it was crafted in a way that you could have the group delusion, because whereas whereas I think if you're right, Richard, in the fact that you would have to have the power of suggestion so that you would be able to say, for example, well, this is where they all come, and this is the thing. So everybody starts to experience that in that location, or
Yeah.
whatever, and so therefore you're not just having some. I mean, so people were saying, well, oh, he's probably got like you know wires and speakers and things. I mean, people had accused Cynthia of going up there and hoaxing people and shining lights on people and all that stuff. I can tell you that didn't happen either.
She wouldn't have to.
No,
If what you're saying is true, all he needs to do is keep them in a state of sleeplessness and
right,
just keep up the suggestion, and then they'll see what he wants them to see. That's how
right,
cults work.
right. So that's that's my. I mean, But what I'm saying
That's
is
Kevin's 2 cents.
right. Well, what I'm saying is that in anything, because the mind is so fragile, you really can't trust people's again. And this might be the end of you can't trust people's recollections of things. You just can't. You can't.
No,
And until and then this is why. And people always say, well, I know that there's a Bigfoot because I've seen it and blah blah blah, and this is what I've done. And that's not evidence. You know what I mean? It's not something that would stand up, in in sort of way. But I'm just saying, um, yeah, a lot of these Bigfoot stories seem to be after, I'm hunting in the woods, 2 days, 3 days into it, and I start to be tracked by something big. And I'm just saying, you know, you can get into a state where you can believe a lot of different stuff, especially if you're using drugs or beer and And I think that happens a lot more than we're told. That it didn't happen at Matt Johnson's. They didn't use any kind of drugs or beer or alcohol. That wasn't allowed up there. But a lot of these people who are quote unquote researchers, they're hammered. You know what I mean? Or stoned. But
Yeah.
that's it. We don't know that because nobody wants to say that. So anyway,
Anyway, you can't trust their recollection.
no.
And you especially can't trust a man who not 5 years ago said that cameras of any kind were squatch repellent and are now posting pictures of demons and Bigfoot coming through portals.
Well, that's
Just getting one
different.
last shot in now.
But demons are not. The demons are not are not that. You have to be able to. And we do need to realize that Matt is taking a class to become get a master's of divinity, and along with
A
Cynthia.
master of divinity. You
Right.
can just get those in cereal boxes, can't you?
Well, I think what everybody has been saying will happen soon. That they will open their own church.
Yeah, but I'm surprised they ain't. I'm pretty sure he's applied for tax exempt status, but
Well, I think that this will be the final this will be the final
the
crossing
Church
of
of
the T.
Squatchology.
Right. If he has a master of divinity and his wife does too, and he's got a big piece of property that people can come worship on, that I'm sure that tax
Whoa.
status will be one of those things that we have applied for.
Absolutely. Do you think Scientology will sue him?
I
Because
think
he
it's
has
different.
basically ripped off their entire belief system.
Well, I don't think that there's that many people that will be.
I don't know, them Scientologists are a bit tetchy.
Well, it could be, but I would think that because there's a lot of there's a lot of crossover between Ramtha, if you remember Ramtha, Jay-Z Knight Ramtha people, and people who go to Matt Johnson's. And so that would be the thing that I would think that would have the immediate effect on it. But maybe Matt Johnson's not interested in having them, be in that group. Maybe he's just interested in the tax break, like you said. Maybe he's just doing it for the tax break. It's not like I don't know if they're going to quit working. They both work.
But it's like that magazine article I found from way back when. He's always cared about fame and money. Those have always been the two priorities for him.
Right.
And I think this is his way of trying to get that.
No, but I just don't see it. Again, it's just one of those things where he's very adamant that these are not UFO type things. I think, what's interesting it is with, even though the Xanu are from another planet, supposedly, he's not claiming that this is like a UFO type scenario. It's not there's 7 races that are looking over the planet, the avian birds and the reptilians and all that stuff. I don't know if he necessarily believes in all that. So I think that you're going to find that this is some kind of very close branch away from Christianity more than anything else. It's some kind of a fundamental Christian approach with Bigfoot. I don't know why I would say that. I don't know why I'm saying that. I don't have anything. I mean,
You just
all
have
I've seen
Jesus up on the cross, and underneath is a bunch of Bigfoots and portals.
I've seen that. I've seen
I
that.
don't see
I've
the
seen that.
overlap there at all.
I've seen the artwork of a Bigfoot underneath a cross
My gosh.
that was supposed to be.
Why isn't a Bigfoot on the cross? Did Bigfoot Jesus not die for our sins? And then go to his portal planet and get sucked through with a
I'm
battery?
surprised you didn't make the joke that I'm going to make, and I know it's in bad taste if you really believe this, but since the Sasquatch are in the trees, the cross and you make a cross out of wood, the Sasquatch is in the.
Wow.
Oof.
Wow.
The views of Kevin are not necessarily the
Yeah, I
views of
know
everybody on the
that's a that's
Or
a
the views of
terrible
anybody.
way of looking at
So
it.
Sasquatch killed Jesus. Because if they
Um,
weren't trees, maybe they're protecting us as just, their way of penance.
Well, this is the thing that I've never understood is that it's sort of a divergent idea of the Sasquatch being, these defenders of the planet. You know what I mean? And you would think that if you were a defender of the planet, and you would realize things like global warming is real, and cutting down the Amazon forest is probably not a good idea. Clear cutting around here is probably not the best. But there's arguments for and against that, right? But politically and socially, those two ideas don't go together. You know what I mean? Because I could, it just seems like that sort of use of the land argument is very different. Like on the one hand, yeah, I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with that, but anyway. I don't know.
Anyway, well, that'll wrap us up then, I think. We will return next week despite the hopes of many. I think, yeah. Shout out to the chat: SoFlo, Gabby, Kathy, Jen, Russ, Rod, Frank, and A Space NG, because I've missed your butt in the chat. Nice to see you back.
He missed your ass.
I didn't say that. All right, I'm not
I
being.
missed your ass, Ange.
So yeah, it's nice to see everyone in the chat. Thank you all for listening. We will return next week, despite the hopes of many.
Hopefully,
I said Gabby, didn't I?
no.
I definitely said Gabby.
When?
Well, you
What?
did now.
I said thank you, Gabby, and with the other names.
It's okay, Gabby. He might not love you, but I do.
Well, hopefully we're not in a war with Ukraine next week.
Could happen. This could be our last show because of imminent nuclear death. And no one's talking about it. Watch the film, don't look up. It's exactly the same thing.
Right. I told you. I'm so glad that you watched that with me. Definitely worth it.
I don't know, man.
All right, yeah. So, yeah, that'll wrap us up for this week. We will definitely return next week, despite the hopes of many. Disco sucks.
Just remember to hide behind a Jijaiko while they're posing for pictures.
Well, they're being forced to pose for pictures because that's a real thing. I didn't make that up. That's actually what he said.
Yes, Jijaiko today. I was